Have you ever noticed how silence feels heavy when you're alone, as if the quiet is pressing against you, reminding you of everything you don't have? Many people run from that silence. They fill it with noise, distractions, endless scrolling, or the company of others they don't truly connect with just to avoid facing the emptiness they feel when they're left with only themselves. But here's the truth you've probably felt deep inside. If you cannot find peace within your own presence, you'll never find it anywhere else. The ability to be happy alone is not a weakness. It's one of the greatest strengths you can ever develop because it is the foundation of freedom, confidence, and lasting joy. Think about it. How often do we believe that happiness comes from someone else? The partner who understands us, the friends who make us laugh, the family who supports us. Of course, these relationships matter, but when happiness depends entirely on others, you give away your power. You live in fear of losing them or in constant hunger for more. You can never rest because you're always chasing validation, approval, or love outside yourself. But when you learn to be happy in your own company, something shifts. You no longer need to chase. You no longer need to beg. You no longer need to fear. You become whole, and from that wholeness, you find true peace. Loneliness hurts not because we are physically alone, but because we believe being alone means we are incomplete, unwanted, or unloved. That belief is a lie. Being alone does not mean you lack value. It simply means life is giving you the chance to meet the one person you have ignored the most, yourself. When you begin to spend time with yourself without judgment, without escape, you uncover strengths, passions, and a depth of resilience you never imagined. The silence you once feared becomes a sanctuary. Instead of emptiness, you discover space. Space to think, to breathe, to grow. Psychologists call this self-sufficiency, and research shows that people who cultivate it are more confident, less anxious, and more fulfilled. Why? Because their happiness does not rise and fall with the actions of others. Imagine the strength of knowing that no matter who comes or goes in your life, your inner state remains steady, peaceful, and unshakable. That is real freedom. That is the kind of peace most people search for their entire lives, yet few ever find because they keep looking in the wrong places. If you stay with me, I promise you something valuable. You will learn how to transform solitude from something that feels like a punishment into something that feels like a gift. You will discover how to replace loneliness with peace, how to replace restlessness with clarity, and how to replace fear with strength. And when you do, you will no longer depend on anyone else to give you joy. You will carry joy within you wherever you go. That is the reward waiting for you if you keep watching. So don't run from the silence anymore. Don't fear being alone. Instead, let's use this time to uncover the hidden treasure inside you. Because the moment you learn to be happy with yourself, you unlock a level of peace no one can take away. And once you have that, everything else in life, relationships, success, love, flows naturally, without fear, without need, without desperation. This is where true happiness begins. The reason so many people feel trapped when they are alone is because they see solitude as a reflection of their worth. They think if no one is here with me, maybe I'm not enough. That thought is poison and it robs you of the greatest opportunity of your life. Solitude is not evidence of rejection. It is an invitation to connect with the deepest part of yourself, the part that has been buried under noise, expectations, and the demands of the world. The quiet you fear is the doorway to the power you seek. Every time you sit with yourself without reaching for a distraction, you prove to your own mind that you are capable of standing strong. You train your brain to stop seeking constant stimulation, to stop running from discomfort, and instead to turn inward. And within you, there's an entire universe you have not yet explored. Dreams you've ignored, strengths you've dismissed, wisdom you've never listened to. Being alone is not the absence of life, it is the presence of possibility. Science shows that when people embrace solitude, their creativity rises, their stress lowers, and their ability to make decisions improves. Think about that for a moment. The moments you label as lonely might actually be the moments when your mind and soul are trying to heal. But instead of listening, most people drown it out with constant noise, clinging to relationships or habits that only keep them stuck. The truth is, silence is not empty. Silence is full of answers. And the longer you resist it, the longer you deny yourself the peace you deserve. Imagine what would happen if you stopped fighting your own company and started welcoming it. What if the time you spend alone was not wasted but invested? Invested in clarity and vision and strength. The strongest people you admire, the ones who radiate confidence and calm, did not become that way by accident. They learned to master solitude. They discovered that the ability to sit with themselves without fear made them untouchable. Because once you can enjoy being alone, no one can control you with absence, and no one can break you with rejection. It's not about shutting people out. It's about creating a foundation so strong that whether people come or go, you remain whole. When your peace comes from within, you no longer feel desperate to fill your life with anyone or anything. You choose relationships from love, not from fear. You make decisions from clarity, not from panic. You live with freedom because you are no longer running away from yourself. This is the transformation waiting for you. The ability to take what once felt like a weakness, being alone, and turn it into the source of your greatest strength. And the reward is bigger than you can imagine. It is the calm that fills your heart when everything outside feels chaotic. It is the confidence that makes you unshakable when others doubt you. It is the quiet joy that follows you everywhere because it comes from within. That kind of peace cannot be bought, borrowed, or handed to you by anyone else. It must be built from inside, and solitude is the path. Do not resist it, step into it. Because what feels like emptiness now will soon reveal itself as freedom, and what feels like silence will become the voice that guides you toward the life you've always wanted. And when that shift happens, you will never see being alone the same way again. There is a kind of strength that does not shout, does not demand attention, and does not rely on others to recognize it. It is the quiet strength that grows when you no longer fear being with yourself. Most people spend their lives searching for happiness in places that cannot sustain it. Relationships, possessions, achievements. They think that if they just have more, or if they just find the right person, then the emptiness inside will finally disappear. What happens when the person leaves, when the applause fades, or when the possessions lose their shine? The emptiness returns deeper than before because it was never about what you had. It was always about who you are when nothing else remains. True happiness begins when you stop asking the world to complete you and start realizing you were whole all along. That realization changes everything. Instead of walking through life with desperation, you walk with peace. Instead of clinging to others for identity, you bring your own presence, your own light. People feel that energy. They sense it. And it draws them to you, not out of need, but out of genuine respect and admiration. The paradox is simple. The moment you stop needing others to fill your emptiness, you become more magnetic than ever. Think of how powerful it feels to wake up and know that your peace does not depend on anyone else's mood, approval, or presence. To know that even if plans fall apart, even if people disappoint you, your inner world remains steady. That kind of stability is rare, but it is possible. Psychologists call it emotional independence, and it is one of the clearest signs of a healthy, resilient mind. People who cultivate it report higher life satisfaction, lower stress, and deeper fulfillment, not because they cut themselves off from the world, but because they no longer make their worth conditional on it. When you reach that place, being alone no longer feels like emptiness, it feels like strength. Solitude becomes a training ground for peace, a place where you learn to calm your thoughts, sharpen your vision, and align your actions with your deepest values. In that space, you stop chasing what doesn't matter. You stop measuring your worth by comparison. You stop drowning in the noise of expectations. Instead, you begin to listen to your own voice, your own intuition, your own truth. And once you hear it, you cannot ignore it because it speaks with clarity and power. The reward for embracing this practice is not just inner calm. It is freedom. Freedom from needing constant approval. Freedom from the anxiety of rejection. Freedom from the cycle of seeking and never feeling enough. Imagine how light your life becomes when you no longer carry that weight. Imagine the decisions you could make when fear is no longer in control. Imagine the relationships you could build when you come to them whole, not broken, not needy, but full of love you already give to yourself. This is what it means to find true peace. It is not a gift someone else hands to you. It is a strength you uncover within. And once you uncover it, you realize that being alone is not the enemy. It is the teacher. It shows you who you are without the world's noise. And in that discovery, you find everything you've been searching for. Peace does not come from adding more to your life. It comes from subtracting the illusions that keep you chained. The illusion that you need someone else to feel complete. The illusion that without constant company, you are somehow less valuable. The illusion that silence means emptiness. These are not truths. They are fears dressed as beliefs, and they rob you of the calm you were born to experience. When you learn to sit with yourself and see those illusions for what they are, they lose their power. And what remains is clarity, a clarity so strong it feels like breathing fresh air after being trapped for years. The human mind craves certainty, but it often looks for it in the wrong places. We try to anchor ourselves to people, routines, and roles, hoping they will never change. But everything external is temporary. People evolve, circumstances shift, and life unfolds in ways we cannot predict. When your sense of peace is tied to what is temporary, you will always feel unstable because change is inevitable. The only anchor that never moves is the one within. That is why learning to be happy alone is so powerful. It connects you to the one constant you can always rely on, yourself. Think about the strength that grows when you no longer fear change because you know you are enough to handle it. Imagine the calm that comes when you stop chasing certainty in others and start building it within. Instead of gripping life with desperation, you open your hands with trust. Instead of clinging to what can be taken away, you invest in what can never leave. That is what inner peace feels like. It is steady, grounded, and untouchable. There's a reason the world feels louder than ever. Everywhere you look, there is distraction, noise, and pressure to keep moving, keep consuming, keep comparing. This endless chase keeps people from facing themselves, but the very thing they run from is the thing that would heal them. Alone time is not empty time. It is the space where growth happens, where old wounds can close, where new clarity can rise. When you avoid it, you prolong your suffering. When you embrace it, you begin to transform. The reward is not only inner strength, but also deeper connections with others. When you no longer rely on people to complete you, you can finally love them without fear, without demand, without control. You are no longer terrified of being left because you know you can stand alone. You are no longer desperate for attention because you no longer measure your worth by how others see you. Instead, you bring love and presence from a place of abundance, not lack, and that changes everything. Picture yourself walking through life with that kind of presence. The world around you may still be chaotic. People may still come and go, but inside there is stillness. Inside there is strength. Inside there is peace. That is what you are capable of creating when you accept solitude as a gift instead of a punishment. Happiness alone is not a myth. It is a practice. And once you learn it, no storm, no rejection, no loss can take it away. There is a quiet courage in facing yourself without escape. Most people fear that if they sit in silence too long, they will uncover truths they cannot handle. The fears they bury, the regrets they hide, the insecurities they mask with constant motion, these shadows feel overwhelming. So they keep running, chasing distractions that numb the pain, but never heal it. Yet healing begins the moment you stop running. When you dare to face yourself in solitude, you discover that the shadows are not monsters meant to destroy you. They are signals guiding you to grow, to release, to rise. The human heart carries both pain and potential. When you allow yourself to sit alone, you give space for both to surface. The pain teaches you what must be let go. The potential reveals what is waiting to be born. That is why solitude can feel uncomfortable at first. It brings you into contact with the parts of yourself you've avoided. But discomfort is not the enemy, it is the teacher. Just as muscles grow stronger when pushed against resistance, your spirit grows stronger when you embrace the resistance of solitude. The very silence you resist becomes the soil where your strength takes root. Think about the shift that happens when you stop fearing discomfort and start welcoming it. Every moment alone becomes practice in resilience. Every second you spend without distraction is a declaration that you trust yourself enough to handle what arises. Over time, your mind learns not to panic in the face of emptiness. Instead, it learns to rest, to breathe, to open. You discover that what you once thought would break you actually makes you unshakable. And once you have tasted that strength, nothing outside of you can compare. This practice rewires your relationship with yourself. Instead of seeing solitude as punishment, you begin to see it as a gift of presence, a gift of clarity, a gift of strength. And with each moment you choose to stay instead of run, you are proving something life-changing to your own heart, that you are enough. that your worth does not depend on who is standing beside you, that your peace does not depend on the noise of the world, that even in silence you are whole. From this place, your life begins to transform. Decisions become easier because you are no longer clouded by fear of rejection. Relationships become healthier because you no longer demand others to complete you. Opportunities open because you carry yourself with confidence, not desperation. People feel your energy shift, and instead of sensing emptiness, they sense fullness. You are no longer searching for someone to carry your happiness. You carry it within yourself. The power of solitude is not in the absence of others, but in the presence of yourself. It is in realizing that when you sit alone, you are not abandoned. You are accompanied by the one person who will never leave you. And when you finally build that relationship, you stop waiting for life to give you peace. You create it. You live it. You embody it. This is the strength that makes you unstoppable, the calm that makes you free, and the joy that no one can take away. The deepest form of freedom is realizing that happiness is not something you chase, but something you create from within. For too long, the mind has been trained to believe that joy lies somewhere outside, in the approval of others, in achievements and recognition, in love received rather than love given to yourself. But that search never ends because every external source is temporary. The moment you attach your peace to what is fragile, you guarantee that your peace will be fragile too. To break free, you must anchor happiness in the one place that cannot be taken from you, your own inner being. This is not about isolation or rejection of the world. It is about building a foundation so strong that you can engage with the world without losing yourself in it. When you are happy alone, you bring strength into every interaction instead of need. You bring presence instead of demand. You bring clarity instead of confusion. And because of that, everything in your life begins to align with greater harmony. Your relationships grow healthier. Your mind grows calmer. Your choices grow wiser. The transformation starts within, but its effects ripple outward into every area of your life. Psychology has shown that people who cultivate self-connection experience higher resilience in the face of stress and setbacks. Why? Because they no longer define themselves by external events. They carry an inner anchor that holds them steady when life becomes uncertain. You have that same capacity. It is not something reserved for a few. It is a skill you can build, a habit you can form, a truth you can embody. And the doorway is solitude. The very thing you once saw as a weakness is the training ground for the strength you need most. When you learn to enjoy your own company, you dissolve the fear of abandonment. When you learn to create joy in silence, you dissolve the fear of emptiness. When you learn to rest in your own presence, you dissolve the fear of not being enough. These fears have held you back, but they are not permanent. They only live as long as you feed them. And the moment you decide to stop running, to stop numbing, to stop clinging, is the moment they begin to lose their power. You step into freedom not by controlling everything around you, but by mastering the only thing you truly can, yourself. Imagine what your life looks like when you no longer fear being alone. The anxiety that once consumed you fades into calm. The desperation that once drove you softens into confidence. The emptiness that once haunted you transforms into space. Space to breathe, space to grow, space to live fully without apology. That kind of peace cannot be forced on you from outside. It is born within you, cultivated by your willingness to stand strong in silence. And when you discover this peace, something extraordinary happens. You no longer feel the need to chase happiness because you realize it has always been within you, waiting for you to stop and listen. You no longer fear solitude because you recognize it as the doorway to strength. You no longer cling to others for validation because you have already validated yourself. This is the essence of true freedom. This is the peace that no loss, no rejection, no storm can ever take away. And it all begins the moment you learn to be happy alone. The moment you stop fearing solitude, you begin to see yourself with new eyes. You notice the thoughts that run through your mind, the patterns that shape your choices, the quiet desires you've ignored for too long. Without the constant noise of the world, you finally hear your own truth. And that truth is not small, it is not fragile, it is not empty, it is powerful, expansive, and alive. The silence reveals what was always there, the strength to build your life from within, rather than waiting for someone else to complete it. Most people live disconnected from themselves, trapped in cycles of comparison, distraction, and fear. They confuse constant activity with progress and constant company with fulfillment. But the soul cannot be fooled. Deep down, it knows the difference between distraction and peace. It knows that the joy found in solitude is real because it does not depend on conditions. It is steady, it is quiet, it is lasting. And once you experience it, you realize it was never loneliness you feared. It was meeting yourself without masks. Meeting yourself is the beginning of transformation. You start to understand your worth not because someone else tells you, but because you feel it in your bones. You begin to recognize that your presence has value, even in silence. You stop apologizing for existing, for taking up space, for being exactly who you are. That shift is life-changing. It frees you from the weight of expectations and gives you permission to live authentically. When you are comfortable with yourself, you no longer need to play roles to fit in. You no longer need to chase acceptance. You are acceptance. This is where real peace grows, from the union between who you are and who you allow yourself to be. In solitude, the walls between those two begin to fall. You realize that the self you've been hiding is not something to fear, but something to embrace. And the more you embrace it, the lighter your life feels. The heavy need to prove yourself fades. The endless comparisons lose their grip. The constant hunger for validation dissolves because you have already given yourself what you once begged others to provide. Psychological research shows that self-acceptance is one of the strongest predictors of lasting happiness. It is not perfection that creates peace, but the willingness to meet yourself fully, even the parts you once rejected. Solitude gives you the space to practice this acceptance. It allows you to face yourself honestly, to see your strengths without arrogance and your flaws without shame. This balance is what creates confidence, a confidence that is unshaken by the ups and downs of life. Imagine walking into every room, every relationship, every opportunity already complete. Imagine no longer trying to fill a void, but instead bringing fullness with you. That energy changes everything. It draws people to you not because you need them, but because your presence inspires them. It makes challenges less frightening because you are no longer battling yourself. Turn solitude from something you fear into something you crave, because you know it is where your true power is renewed. This is the gift waiting in silence, not emptiness, but connection, not weakness, but strength, not isolation, but freedom. The freedom to be yourself fully, the freedom to love without fear, the freedom to stand tall no matter who stands beside you. When you learn to be happy alone, you unlock the door to the deepest peace life can offer. And once you've opened that door, you will never want to close it again. When you realize that peace does not come from others, but from within, you begin to approach life differently. You stop bargaining with your worth. You stop waiting for the world to give you permission to feel whole. Instead, you claim it, you own it, you live it. That shift is the essence of empowerment, choosing to create joy from your own presence rather than waiting for someone else to deliver it. The moment you accept that your happiness is your responsibility, you take back the power you unknowingly gave away. The truth is, dependence breeds fear. If your happiness depends on someone staying, you will always fear their leaving. If your peace depends on circumstances being perfect, you will always fear change. But when your happiness flows from within, there is nothing left to fear. People can come and go, situations can rise and fall, but your inner state remains steady. That steadiness is strength. It is the unshakable foundation that allows you to face life without panic, without desperation, without losing yourself in the process. Many people mistake solitude for emptiness, but solitude is fullness when embraced with the right perspective. It is a space where you rediscover your passions, where you reconnect with your values, where you hear the voice of your own intuition guiding you toward the life you truly want. In the noise of constant company, those inner whispers are drowned out, but in silence they become clear. That clarity is priceless because it gives you direction no one else can give. It reminds you that your life is not meant to be a reaction to others, but a creation from within. Psychology tells us that autonomy, the ability to direct your own life, is a core driver of human fulfillment. When you rely on others for happiness, you give up that autonomy. But when you learn to be content in your own company, you reclaim it. You begin to live intentionally, not reactively. You start making choices not from fear of being alone, but from the vision of the life you want to create. And that difference changes everything. It transforms loneliness into freedom and silence into possibility. Think about what it means to walk through life no longer controlled by fear of rejection or abandonment. It means that you can pursue dreams without worrying who approves. It means you can set boundaries without guilt. It means you can say no to what drains you and yes to what aligns with your heart. This is the reward of being whole within yourself. You are no longer enslaved by the need to be validated. You are free to live, to love, to grow without chains. And when you stand in that kind of freedom, your presence becomes unshakable. People feel the calm that radiates from you, the confidence that doesn't need to prove itself, the joy that is not tied to conditions. You inspire without trying because you embody what so many are searching for, peace that cannot be taken away. This is a life waiting for you when you stop running from solitude. Not a life of emptiness, but a life of depth. Not a life of fear, but a life of strength. Not a life of waiting, but a life of living fully in the power of your own presence. The greatest transformation begins the moment you stop seeking escape from yourself and start seeking connection with yourself. So many people spend years trying to outrun their own reflection, terrified of what they might discover if they slow down long enough to truly look. But there's nothing to fear in meeting yourself fully. What you discover in solitude is not weakness but strength, not emptiness but potential, not rejection, but the invitation to live with deeper authenticity than ever before. When you allow yourself to sit in silence, you begin to hear the thoughts that usually get buried under constant noise. At first, those thoughts might feel uncomfortable. They may reveal fears, regrets, or wounds you've carried for too long. But facing them is the first step toward freedom. Avoidance only keeps them alive. Awareness begins the healing process. Every time you choose to stay present instead of running, you build trust with yourself. You show your mind and heart that you are strong enough to hold even the heaviest truths without breaking. That kind of trust cannot be bought. It must be earned in solitude. And once you build it, something remarkable happens. The inner critic that once shouted so loudly begins to lose its power. The doubts that once paralyzed you begin to fade. The self-judgment that once kept you chained begins to dissolve. In its place grows a voice of compassion, a voice that tells you the truth you have always needed to hear. You are enough, as you are, without conditions, without approval, without performance. This voice is your own, and once you learn to listen to it, it becomes the compass that guides you through life with clarity and peace. Psychologists call this self-compassion, and research shows it is one of the most powerful drivers of resilience, confidence, and happiness. Unlike self-esteem, which often depends on comparison and achievement, self-compassion is unconditional. It means you treat yourself with the same kindness you would offer someone you love. Solitude gives you the space to cultivate this. It removes the distractions that drown out your inner world and allows you to practice meeting yourself with gentleness instead of judgment. Imagine the freedom of no longer being your own enemy. Imagine the lightness of carrying encouragement within you instead of constant criticism. Imagine facing challenges not with fear but with self-trust, knowing you have your own back no matter what. That kind of relationship with yourself is life-changing. It transforms how you see the world, how you handle setbacks, how you love others. Because when you stop demanding perfection from yourself, you also stop demanding it from others. You create space for real connection, real love, real peace. This is why solitude is not punishment. It is preparation. Preparation for a life built not on fear but on strength. Preparation for a heart that does not crumble under pressure but stands steady through storms. Preparation for a mind that does not drown in doubt but rises with clarity and courage. The time you spend alone is not wasted time. It is invested time. Every moment you spend embracing your own presence is a brick laid in the foundation of a life that is unshakable. And when that foundation is built, you discover the truth that changes everything. Being alone is not the absence of love or joy. It is the soil in which both are planted, the place where they grow strong enough to last, no matter what life brings. The peace you find in your own company becomes the key to unlocking a deeper kind of strength, the kind that does not depend on circumstances, approval, or outcomes. When you know how to be happy alone, you no longer fear silence, you no longer fear change, and you no longer fear loss. That freedom makes you powerful in a way most people will never experience, because most people are still searching outside themselves for what only exists within. They chase love, attention, or success, hoping those things will erase the emptiness inside. But emptiness does not disappear when you fill it with temporary things. It disappears when you realize it was never emptiness to begin with. It was unrecognized potential, waiting to be awakened. When you embrace solitude, you uncover that potential. You begin to see that the energy you once poured into seeking validation can instead be used to create, to grow, to live with intention. You stop asking others to tell you who you are because you finally see it for yourself. That clarity changes everything. It shifts you from living reactively, always responding to what others think or do, to living proactively, guided by your own vision. This is the difference between drifting through life and consciously shaping it. The mind becomes sharper in silence. Studies show that time spent alone increases self-awareness, creativity, and problem solving. Without the noise of constant influence, your thoughts have space to settle, your ideas have room to breathe, and your values rise to the surface. This is why solitude feels uncomfortable for so many at first. It strips away the noise and leaves you with truth. But that truth is exactly what you need, because it shows you where you are out of alignment and where you are ready to grow. Avoiding it keeps you stuck. Facing it sets you free. Think of the power that comes when you no longer depend on external voices to tell you what matters. You can move toward your goals without hesitation because you trust your inner compass. You can step away from relationships or environments that drain you because you know you are not defined by them. You can embrace new opportunities with courage because you carry your sense of worth into every situation. This is not arrogance. It is self-possession, the quiet confidence that comes from being grounded in who you are. And as that confidence grows, your relationships change too. You stop approaching others from a place of need and instead approach them from a place of wholeness. You are not looking to be completed. You are looking to share. You are not afraid of being left. You are free to love fully without fear. You are not trapped by loneliness. You are expanded by connection because you know that whether people stay or go, your peace remains intact. This is what true independence feels like. It is not about rejecting the world or isolating yourself from others. It is about carrying a deep sense of peace within you, so strong that nothing outside can disturb it. When you learn to be happy alone, you are no longer controlled by fear. You are led by clarity. You are fueled by inner strength, and you are anchored by a peace that follows you everywhere, no matter what life brings. This is the kind of freedom that transforms not just your solitude, but your entire existence. When you find peace in solitude, life itself begins to feel lighter. The heaviness of always proving, always chasing, always needing starts to fall away. You realize you do not need to fill every moment with noise to feel alive. You do not need to surround yourself with constant company to feel valued. You do not need to achieve endless goals to justify your worth. You already carry everything you need within you. That realization is not just comforting, it is liberating. It sets you free from the endless cycle of seeking and allows you to finally rest in who you are. The mind thrives when it is no longer trapped in comparison. So much unhappiness is born from looking outward, measuring yourself against others, and believing you are always behind. Solitude interrupts that cycle. In silence, there is no one to compare yourself to. There is only you. And in that space, you can finally see your own progress, your own strengths, your own journey. You stop chasing someone else's timeline and start honoring your own. This shift restores dignity to your path and helps you see that you are not late, not lacking, not failing. You are simply unfolding at your own pace. Psychological research shows that mindfulness and self-reflection increase emotional stability and reduce stress. Both of these are nurtured in solitude. When you slow down, you give your nervous system the chance to reset. Your thoughts stop racing, your breath deepens, and your body remembers what calm feels like. In that state, your perspective changes. Problems that once felt overwhelming begin to shrink. Fears that once felt paralyzing begin to loosen. You recognize that peace was never far away. It was hidden beneath the clutter of constant distraction. This is why solitude is sacred. It is the place where your inner world aligns. It is where your true desires surface, unfiltered by expectations. It is where your deepest strength awakens, unshaken by noise. And it is where your greatest peace emerges, untouchable by circumstances. Once you experience this, you realize solitude is not something to fear, but something to cherish. It becomes a sanctuary, a source of renewal, a reminder that you are never as lost as you once thought. Imagine living with that awareness every day. Waking up not with anxiety about what others think, but with calm rooted in your own presence. Moving through challenges not with desperation, but with steady trust in yourself. Entering relationships not to fill a void, but to share the fullness you already carry. That kind of life is possible when you embrace being alone, when you stop running from yourself and start listening to yourself. And the beauty is that this shift is permanent once it takes root. You may still face storms, but you will not be shaken. You may still encounter loss, but you will not be broken. You may still experience moments of uncertainty, but they will not consume you, because you will always know where to return, to the stillness inside, to the peace that belongs only to you, to the happiness you created when you finally accepted that being alone is not a curse, but the greatest freedom you will ever know. The freedom you gain in solitude is not just the absence of noise, it is the presence of power, a power that grows quietly, steadily, in the stillness of your own company. This power is not loud, it does not demand attention, and it does not depend on recognition. It is the power of self-mastery, the ability to hold your ground when the world shifts, the ability to stay centered when life tests you, the ability to remain at peace even when nothing outside looks certain. Once you build this within yourself, you carry an inner fortress that no storm can tear down. Most people spend their lives chasing control over things they can never hold. They want to control how others see them, how relationships unfold, how life plays out. But all of these are fragile, constantly changing, slipping through their hands no matter how tightly they grasp. The irony is that the control they seek is already within them. It is the control of their own thoughts, their own responses, their own state of being. Solitude is where you reclaim this control. It is where you realize that while you cannot shape the entire world, you can shape the way you meet it. That truth alone transforms fear into courage. Every time you choose to embrace silence instead of running from it, you strengthen this inner control. Every moment you stay present with yourself without distraction, you are training your mind to be steady. The same way muscles grow stronger with resistance, your spirit grows stronger with solitude. You become less reactive, less desperate, less shaken by uncertainty. You stop living like a leaf blown by the wind and start living like a tree, rooted deeply in the soil of your own presence. Psychologists describe this as internal locus of control, the belief that your life is guided more by your own actions than by external forces. People who develop this trait live with greater confidence, higher motivation, and stronger resilience. Solitude naturally builds this because it forces you to stop outsourcing your sense of power. It teaches you that you are not helpless, not incomplete, not dependent on what others give. You are capable of creating peace, joy, and direction from within. And when you realize this, everything outside begins to feel different. Challenges lose some of their weight because you know you can handle them. Setbacks no longer define you because you know they are temporary. Rejection no longer destroys you because you know your worth does not come from being chosen. This is not just positive thinking. It is deep strength, cultivated through the simple act of learning to stand alone without fear. Imagine moving through life with that kind of calm authority. You are no longer pulled in every direction by the expectations of others. You are no longer enslaved by the fear of being left behind. You are no longer trapped in cycles of doubt. Instead, you are grounded, steady, free. You make choices from clarity, not panic. You build relationships from wholeness, not need. You pursue your path with courage, not hesitation. This is the gift solitude offers. It is not emptiness. It is not punishment. It is the classroom where strength is taught, the soil where confidence is rooted, the mirror where truth is revealed. When you learn to embrace being alone, you are not losing anything. You are gaining everything that cannot be taken away. The strength you build in solitude becomes the foundation for true peace, the kind of peace that does not depend on perfect conditions or flawless outcomes. It is a peace that lives inside you, steady and unwavering, even when life around you feels uncertain. This peace is not about escaping the world. It is about carrying a calm center into every moment of it. When you cultivate it, you no longer crumble under pressure. You no longer panic in chaos, and you no longer break when things don't go your way. You move with a quiet confidence that others can feel and that you yourself can trust. Peace is not something you stumble upon by accident. It is something you create by how you choose to relate to yourself. When you stop judging your own thoughts, when you stop fighting your emotions, when you stop demanding perfection from your journey, you begin to soften inside. That softness is not weakness, it is strength. It allows you to bend instead of break. It allows you to release instead of cling. It allows you to rest instead of resist. And in that rest, you rediscover energy you thought you had lost. Psychologists often speak of acceptance as one of the most powerful tools for emotional well-being. Acceptance is not giving up. It is recognizing reality without adding resistance to it. It is saying, this is what is here, and I can still choose peace in the middle of it. Solitude trains this skill. When you sit with yourself without distraction, you see your thoughts, your fears, and your doubts rise up. And instead of running from them, you learn to let them be. You realize they do not control you unless you fight them. You discover that beneath all the noise, there is a deeper stillness waiting. That stillness is the peace you carry forward. Imagine living each day with that kind of inner calm, waking up not with dread, but with a sense of space inside, moving through the day not with tension, but with flow, facing challenges not with panic, but with trust that you are strong enough to handle them. This kind of peace changes everything. It changes how you work because you stop rushing from fear and start creating from focus. It changes how you love because you stop clinging out of need and start giving from abundance. It changes how you dream because you stop doubting what's possible and start walking toward it with steady steps. And the beauty of this peace is that it cannot be stolen. People may leave, but your peace remains. Circumstances may shift, but your peace remains. Success may rise and fall, but your peace remains. That is why solitude is a gift. It gives you the chance to discover that this unshakable calm already lives within you. You are not chasing it in the world. You are uncovering it in yourself. When you finally touch this peace, you understand what it means to be free. You are no longer chained to outcomes. You are no longer enslaved by approval. You are no longer haunted by fear. You can walk into any season of life with courage because you know your peace is not tied to what happens. It is tied to who you are becoming. And that kind of peace is the greatest treasure you will ever hold. The discovery of inner peace opens the door to a deeper truth. You already have everything you thought you were searching for. The happiness you once believed would come from recognition, success, or companionship was never locked outside of you. It was waiting inside, beneath the layers of fear, distraction, and expectation. The moment you stop running from solitude, you begin to see that happiness is not something to be earned, begged for, or stolen. It is something you create, moment by moment, by choosing to be fully present with yourself. Happiness begins in the simplest of places. It is in the quiet breath that reminds you you're alive. It is in the pause where you notice the beauty around you. It is in the freedom of knowing that nothing is missing when you are at ease with who you are. This kind of happiness cannot be faked, and it cannot be taken away. It is not loud or dramatic. It is steady, calm, and deeply fulfilling. It comes from alignment, from the harmony between your inner world and the life you are building on the outside. Psychologists call this intrinsic happiness, the kind that comes from inner fulfillment rather than external reward. Research shows that people who cultivate it live longer, experience less stress, and build stronger relationships. And the path to it almost always begins in solitude, because solitude strips away the illusion that something outside will finally complete you. It shows you that joy does not depend on conditions, it depends on perspective. When you can feel whole while sitting in silence, you unlock a joy that cannot be broken by anything outside of you. This realization changes how you see everything. No longer is happiness something distant tied to some future milestone. It is here, in this moment, if you allow it to be. No longer is happiness fragile, dependent on others doing what you hope they will. It is within your control, a state you can return to whenever you choose presence over fear, gratitude over lack, acceptance over resistance. This is why solitude feels so powerful. It reconnects you to the truth that happiness is not a destination, but a decision. Think about what it would mean to live this way, to stop postponing joy until everything looks perfect, to stop giving your power away by letting circumstances dictate your mood, to stop chasing validation because you already feel enough as you are. This does not mean ignoring challenges or pretending pain doesn't exist. It means carrying a deeper calm beneath it all, knowing that even in struggle, even in change, even in loss, you can still access moments of peace. And from that peace, happiness naturally flows. When you learn to be happy alone, you no longer fear loneliness. You no longer resist silence. You no longer feel incomplete without someone else beside you. Instead, you discover the profound truth that happiness was never about who you are with, but about how deeply you are connected to yourself. And once you touch that truth, you carry it into every part of life, into your relationships, your work, your dreams. It becomes the anchor that steadies you, the light that guides you, and the gift that reminds you you are already whole, and true peace has been within you all along.